class. Do join in the live chat, ask your questions. Uh, Today, oh my gosh, already a mistake. Today we are talking about love, and I put the wrong title. How did I not update that? Let's do that. All right, so we're talking about love and how we can find happiness through love, how we're doing it all wrong, especially in the West. I want to introduce my old friend, Wahid. Thank you so much for joining again. It was great fun last time. You were amazing. I love how you're just so open. So it's going to be possibly really interesting with what you've got to say. Who knows, right? And do check out previous shows at bigquestionsanswer.com. I'm pointing at that website there. I've got lots of info. There's a weekly show. Do check it out. Everything I've got to say, by the way, is based on logic, science, and ancient religions. I'm not making all this stuff up. Hopefully, it will be really genuinely interesting and different. Do press the like button if you like the stuff I'm about to say. Let's go for it. So, go on. What are you saying, Wahid? Sorry.
Press the like button. Smash the like button.
Yeah, smash the like button. Don't just press it. Smash it.
Smash it.
Sorry, that's how YouTubers say it. Sorry, isn't it? Smash the like button. Don't just press the like button, right? All right. Okay, here we go. So, first question. I like to put everything as a question. How do you find your soulmate, also known as the one? Okay, so I'm just gonna whiz through. I do quote different things. So there's a beautiful quote, but it might just be so confusing that probably don't concentrate into too much. Maybe pause it after I've said it and listen to it afterwards, in the non-live version of this show. But anyway, the same attraction, continuing part of a sort of a sentence or something. I'm taking a snippet. The same attraction comes into play whenever a person feels love for another. It is the reflection of the attraction that is inherent in man's nature towards God, as if he is in search for something he misses, the name of which he has forgotten, and which he seeks to find in one thing or another, which he takes up from time to time. So that's a book called The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam by somebody known as the Promised Messiah. But anyway, don't think about it too much if that's mind-boggling stuff. Let me just give you a kind of my own little summary, also on the screen, by the way, on the bottom, about what that all just means. When most people find a soulmate, they find out shortly after that they aren't. They aren't the soulmate. They think they're the soulmate, but it turns out not long after that they aren't. Why do we so desperately try to find this mythical perfect person in our lives? Is it this? It is the same reason why we find peace in nature, or when we hear a beautiful voice. It is our natural attraction towards the artist that made all of them. So again, I try to kind of break it down, but again, by itself, I think it's quite confusing stuff. I don't know. How confusing was that? That was pretty confusing, Wahid? I don't know.
Well, confusing in a state. Maybe maybe confusing for some, and maybe not. May not be confusing for some.
Cool. Okay. But hopefully by the end of this longer chat about an explanation about what I just said, hopefully it'll be less confusing. So first of all, this show is going to be a bit of a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe special. Okay, so Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe is a movie, okay, and a book, and I'm picking up on it today because Elon Musk talked about it recently in a really important, popular live stream. Okay, on a TED live stream, whatever it is, right? Okay, and he said recently that it guides a lot of what his ideas are about life. So this is the richest guy in the world, possibly one of the smartest guys in the world, doing some of the coolest things, and he thinks this movie is pretty important. And so I'm giving. And it does reflect a lot of the things that people in Western societies, especially atheist societies, believe. So that's why I'm talking about it, right? So the main character in this movie finds that nothing makes him happy except finding the one, the person who truly loves, right? Okay, this mythology is something the West has accepted, this idea that there is the one, okay, even though their experience is the opposite. Every time they think they have found the one, every people in the West, they find like, oh, I'm in love, right? And then shortly after, it doesn't take long to realize that person is just a human being, as annoying as anybody else. All human beings are just a bit annoying. So it doesn't take long to realize that person is just a human being, as annoying as anybody else, and not going to somehow complete you, right? There are a couple of reasons why we believe in something as impossible as a perfect person. So when we're falling in love, we kind of think that we kind of tell ourselves that person is perfect, which we know deep down is not true. And we believe in this romantic idea that there's a perfect person out there. But why do we believe in this crazy belief, right? Okay, so there's a couple of reasons why we let ourselves believe in this thing, right? Okay, um, and one is that we are social beings in an individualistic, selfish, and lonely society. So we desperately want to connect to at least one person. Connecting with lots of people, such as family and local community, does not appeal to individualistic societies. So they want something easier. So basically, just connect to only one person. Once they get the object they desire, they realize that it doesn't bring happiness. So they start chasing another person, as they do with other material things. The fact that the fact that we search for perfection, something so beautiful that it completes us, is a clue that our nature desires the only thing that really fits that description of being a perfect thing, and that is God. Only God is perfect. Okay, so it's interesting. So this is a clue that we're actually in search of God. God is the one and our only soulmate. When we realize only God is perfect and find comfort in Him, we are relieved of the need to find the perfect person. Not having to marry a perfect person means find makes it much easier to find such a person. It makes it much easier to find a person to marry at all. Like if you're finding a perfect person, that's impossible. But if you're just finding a normal person because you stop trying to find a perfect person because you've already found God. God's only God's perfect, right? Then it makes finding a nice person to marry much easier, or if not married, just finding a nice person to connect with much easier. Okay, and if we do have a relationship with God through a deep understanding of beauty, because God is not like physical, right? Okay, that will translate into us appreciating deeper qualities in people. In short, nice people are easier to be close to, and so they they are good soulmate material, if there was a soulmate at all. So that's a lot of stuff I said there. Let me ask you a question, or not ask you a question to put you on the spot. Like, just let's start breaking it down. So that's my little speech done, right?
Right.
Okay. So what do you, so I'm talking about this thing about finding the one.
Mm.
Isn't it weird, or maybe, or what's your opinion, like, about finding this, like, when we fall in love, um, we try to think there's some perfect person out there. What do you think about that?
Is it through? Is it to do with a marriage or just any other person? Like
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I know me and you, we've been talking, right? And you don't mind me saying you've lost both of your parents and you really miss them, right?
I do
Okay,
very.
and so, and the one for you is your mum. Would I say that's right?
Yes, yes. I
Yeah.
do.
So even in that, right, we know deep down that nobody's perfect.
No, that's
right?
true.
But
Honest,
somehow we put all our expectations or hopes in that one person, even in your mum, right? Your
mm,
mum was if there wasn't any imperfection, she couldn't live forever, for example, right? She couldn't
no,
control that,
nobody
right?
can. Nobody
Right?
does.
Exactly. So it's just something that we can't really control. So that's the interesting thing. I mean, we've only got a few seconds after my speech, but the point is that, nobody's perfect, nobody can control living forever. And maybe if we stop, this is my thing for you, right? Is maybe don't hold on to her so much and rely on God more, because God is the only perfect thing who can really understand you, and you can really only have a connection with God is that is perfect. Like God doesn't die, for example, on you. God's always standing by you. That's my thought. Any thoughts about that? Maybe
Yeah,
it's a
and
hard thing to do.
it can be hard because obviously you don't have the communication. Obviously he's there, but you miss that communication, and I guess that's it. But he's perfect, and that's it. So um,
Well,
that's
that's interesting you said that, because you also talked about how, although God doesn't like maybe talk to you exactly, but you're
but
saying that God, you're telling me, keeps sending you dreams of your mum,
yeah, he does.
effectively sending your mum to you all the time. So maybe God doesn't say, "Hello, how's it going?" But
Yeah,
maybe God kind of helps you in maybe you more useful ways than just saying, "Hello, how's it going?" I don't know.
yeah. Maybe he because I have talked to God in the Sajda and Namaz, and I've requested that I need to
Hmm.
keep connection with my parents, and he has responded by continuously sending them down
Yeah.
to
Perfect. Beautiful.
and
Beautiful.
oh God, he's not going to reply to you or talk to you like me and you are talking man to man.
Yeah. Yeah.
He will talk through maybe dreams. He will interact and
Yeah.
send the people that you loved most. Like
Yeah.
I told my dad before his on his last breath before he was
Mm.
dying. I
Mm.
said, Dad, can you please request God something? Request
Mm.
Him to
Mm.
visit me.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, he's been given the permission.
Alhamdulillah.
I mean,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
how God works in mysterious ways. I mean,
Yeah.
you can talk to him and you can get signs from him through maybe dreams and other various aspects. This is the beauty of God.
That's right. And God is different to depending on each person's needs. So my parents are still alive, so I don't have that particular need, but
Mm.
God helps me in endless miraculous ways all the time. It's just
Mm.
like a non-stop thing. So it helps me in my daily life. Like I might risk not doing, I'll do less work, because then God pays me a different way. Do you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
can do these shows and things.
Mm.
So cool. Really, that was really interesting. So the next bit is, do you need love to be happy? Right. So again, here's a quick quote. You can probably digest it later. It's quite deep stuff. You will
Mm.
not enter paradise. So it's quite a quote from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the founder of Islam. And I try to talk about different religions. They're all connected, according to Islam anyway. But anyway, here's a quote. You will not enter paradise. And that means happiness in this life and the next, not just in the next life, right? Until you have faith. So you'll not have happiness basically until you have faith, and you will not have faith until you love each other. Shall I show you something? He said, if you do it, you will love each other. Spread peace between yourselves. So I'm not going to go into it too much. Okay, there's a lot of when it says spread peace, it's like the literal, you say the word salam. It's the ancient way of saying hello in different religions, in Islam, in Judaism, in Christianity. Not all Christians still say it, but anyway, so that's kind of a little bit about what's going on there. But let me again do a short explanation of what has that got to do with the answer to the question, do you need love to be happy? So hopefully you can see up there, all the information you need is kind of there on the side. But anyway, and more information in the description, like the long answers and stuff. But anyway, so yes, you do need love to be happy, but definitely not the kind of love Westerners practice. Kindness opened you up to the light of life. So weird, maybe description is the best I could think of, right? But love for one person or the one that we were talking about, this romantic idea that Westerners have, often at the exclusion of others. So that's like, I love you, but I don't love everybody else. Okay, that's the Western love, right? Okay, isn't love. That is not love, but is an extension of or more of materialism. So I'm going to explain that later. How Western love is really materialism. It's not real love. Everyone is annoying, as I said before. Okay, so such lust, which is it's not love, it's lust. That's what people have in the West only gives temporary happiness. So, again, the long explanation. Here we go. Be ready. And again, we're talking about the Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy, right? So, again, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the main character says that answering questions about life has never made him happy, but finding his one true love has. Okay, so this is typical of Western thought. They think they have searched for truth, but most are quick to assume there isn't any truth out there, which is basically what the whole movie is about. They're like, yeah, we're searching for the meaning of life, but we know it's not really there. That's what the movie is basically saying. That kind of thinking makes Westerners quite desperate to find some sort of happiness because they're not finding it anywhere. Like they're looking for the truth and they're claiming they're not finding anywhere. So what are they left with? And so they put all their hopes in finding one person based on one person who's going to give them their happiness and the meaning and everything, based on some mystical belief that there is a one person out there who is destined to meet them. Okay, so in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, as in all Hollywood movies, the main character finds love at the end with a good looking woman, not an ugly one, as that would ruin the movie. Right? Do you know what I mean? You never see them falling in love with an ugly person because that would just like, oh no, how can you do that? It's
I know.
so rude, isn't it? It's so rude, these Hollywood movies. Anyway, so okay, so falls in love with the best looking person in the whole movie, right? Somehow, okay. And then what the movie doesn't show is that shortly after the scene, this is me taking the mic, by the way, okay, he gets bored of her, right? So that I mean, it doesn't show that because that's the end of the movie already, right? But that's in reality what happens every single time. In the materialistic West, people have become like things, just like an iPhone. Okay, people queue up for ages for the latest iPhone. They used to, not anymore, right? Okay, but when they get it, they quickly realize an iPhone is not for life. Okay, it's for as long as the next model doesn't turn up, right? Okay, so with Western romantic love, which is actually a new idea, like last 200 years, nobody knew about romantic love 200 years, more than 200 years ago. The grass is always greener on the other side. Do you know that phrase, right? Grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the problem with this idea of romantic love. So let me tell you the better alternative, right? But if you want to be happy, Westerners will have to stop treating everyone as strangers and realize we are all brothers and sisters on this little planet. We should love or show kindness to everyone because that's what real love is, kindness. Okay, it is not as exciting or sexual as the short-term high you get from romantic love, but universal kindness, that means kindness for everybody, is the more deeply satisfying option. Okay, it is like the difference between eating sugar, romantic love, or eating your veggies, real love. Like you get high from sugar, but it's not good for you. Eating too much ice cream. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, okay. So it's kind of a inside joke between me and Wahid, although it's not an inside joke because we talked about it on the last show, I think. Anyway, um, so no hidden truths, no secrets between us. Okay. Anyway, so When you start loving others, you start feeling connected to everyone and everything. It is like the light of life coming in. Okay. The opposite is the depressing reality of Western culture, people closed up from each other, and so much more. This is seen when people wear headphones outdoors. They close off all experience of nature around them. When Western society is the most intoxicated and medicated in history, people, because it is so sick and scared of the hell that they have created for them in the form of purely materialistic world. Happiness is opening your heart to others, which opens your mind to new ideas and levels of experience. Wow. Sorry, Wahid, sorry. I just have to apologize. I'm doing all the time and I'm looking at the time 17 seconds. Each show's an experiment. I'm sorry, man. Hopefully you're getting bored. I'm just doing long speeches. I don't know. I'm gonna try to make it a bit shorter next time. I'm gonna cut off half of my speech and then get you to talk in the next one, right? So anyway, next one. Sorry about that, Wahid.
It's great.
Uh,
You're an inspiration, mate.
oh, appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it. At least we're having like mini jokes in between, but I'm gonna try to talk less in the next one. And guys, because I'm gonna be talking next less in the next one, do as I said, go to the description. My long answers are basically there. Do ask questions in the non-live chat as well if you don't want to ask questions. Now you can ask questions right now if you want, right? But I know people find it, I don't know, whatever reason they don't ask, right? But here we go. Last part of about finding love and how it makes you happy and all this kind of stuff, right? And how to do it properly, love properly. Why does love give life meaning? Right? Because some people like they feel all depressed and they don't know what to do with their lives, and suddenly when they're in love, everything seems to make sense. They know what to do with their lives, right? It's a common experience. That's what somehow has that effect. Like, I don't know, does life have more meaning when your mum was alive? I don't know.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
So you agree with that idea, right? Okay, and everybody's experienced love, right? And how that's kind of basically true. So cool. Okay, so let's do the quote. Wealth and children are an ornament of the life of this world, but enduring good works are better in the sight of your God. I always try to retranslate these things, but I forgot to try your thy Lord, God basically, in respect of the immediate reward and better in respect of the future hope. Okay, so basically, because I didn't translate that properly into modern English, I'll just say, people, your children, and your money, and all these kind of things. These kind of almost materialistic kind of things, right? These things that make you a bit happy, but the things that really make you happy are good works, and they make you happy in the short term and the long term. It gives you actually hope. It actually makes you feel good about the future. And that's from the Holy Quran. And anyway, so I've kind of explained it, but let me explain it in a different way. My short summary that I put over there. Modern Western societies are filled with selfish, lonely souls. Okay, I'm trying not to be insulting of people, but it's just the way people are. I'm just saying we're all selfish in different ways, right? And because we're selfish, we're really lonely. Okay, so connecting with someone is a huge relief for such depressed people. And I would say Western society is really depressed. When I come from a hot country and I come back here and I see people not smiling at each other, not looking at each other, of course people are going to be depressed, right? So, but okay, so as I keep saying, sort of like the third time, but everyone is annoying. So, love of one imperfect person, okay, so we're trying to, I think I've copied the wrong stuff. Okay, anyway, if they tried a life of service to humanity, they would find real love and lasting happiness rather than trying to find love with one perfect person, and they won't. Whatever. Anyway, so here goes. Oh, this is a short version. Okay, I got 5 minutes. I'm going to read through this really quickly. Okay, Western societies. My kind of my long story is not so long this time. Just for the last one. Western societies are addicted to materialism, so they try to find everything through it, including meaning for their lives. Their definition of love is not kindness, but attraction to the surface of a person. So that's not always true, I suppose. Case in the case of your mum, your interest, you had a deeper connection, but often romantic love, at least, you know, that's kind of just the surface, really. Like how they look, basically. Yeah.
Mm,
So when people fall in love with each other, they do it to the exclusion of others. That means not including other people. They don't start loving everybody. They're just like, that person, I love you only. Okay. That does not sound like what loving people would do. Love one person and not care about others. It sounds more like two self indulgent people, a kind of two-way narcissism. So, narcissism, obsessive obsession about yourself, like I'm important and everything. Okay. This is just a form of materialism, treating each other's as ornament things, like decoration, nice things to have. Real love is demonstrated by doing nice things for lots of people. Goodness makes us feel good and makes the world better. Feeling good is positive feedback from our bodies that we're doing the right thing, which means we are working in accordance with our design and our purpose. Given, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about there. Whatever, forget that last bit. I think I might copy pasted from somewhere else. Anyway, so yeah, so if I was to try to summarize that in more sensible, in better words, why does love give life meaning? Well, kind of we're missing people anyway, right? So somehow, and we're so desperately missing people that when we find somebody to love or be connected with, it gives us more meaning because we're just social beings. So that's one thing. But that by itself, I would say, first of all, have real love. Like love is kindness, not just not even in the case of your mum, right? You got something from your mum. That's why you loved her. But is that real love from you? Do you really love her? Because you're just being a bit harsh, right? But it's kind of the point of the show, right? It's like, do you really have love when you know you're going to get something back from somebody? Is that real love? Or is real love when you're kind to somebody and you don't know for sure you're going to get something back? So that's the case with your mom. Like your mom was always being nice to you, maybe. I don't know. You can disagree with me. What do you think?
no, she was always nice to me, and I was always nice to her, and we
Uh,
were the people. She was nice
yeah.
to I was nice to other people, and we always, made an effort to try and be good to anyone that we knew. Fair,
Yeah.
they didn't. If they weren't nice to us, fair play. Okay, you know, peace be on them. God forgive them. But we always tried to treat anyone with respect. As um, she loved me, I loved her, and when love is missing, you kind of it's that gaping hole which can be very hard to fulfill. I mean, there's two types of love. One is sincere love you have for your mum or your dad, and the other love is called selfish love. Oh
Yeah.
dear, now that person is gone. What am I going to do? How am I going to survive? Or what? I mean, what have I been left with? But so some people just love their parents or their loved ones for the sake of other means, like materialism.
Yeah.
Whereas this love was not for just materialism, but for is within for pious reasons and for religious reasons and for humanity. It was
Yeah.
second to none.
Wow. It's beautiful that you had that connection with your mum, isn't it? So you don't miss, like, you don't feel bad that you didn't, like, so a lot of people regret that they didn't have that connection. So that's really nice to know.
This is a connection probably you will never see again. I mean, I don't think. I mean, maybe until we meet again, then yes. But then, as I said, people have a connection. They can be selfish love and they can be sincere love.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's true that if you do have love for, like you were describing, for not just your mum but lots of other people, that's what real love looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. um and so, and then you're the best judge of, I suppose you're the best judge of that, because then you can ask yourself, is it am I really going out of my way to help other people now that she's passed away? Because that's what a sign of real love is. Real love is that you're always showing kindness to lots of people. And the reason why that's really important is because then you don't get too upset or controlled by the loss of your mum, because she's not the one source of that love. It's like you're demonstrating love to other people and you get love to, I don't know, something like
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
that. All
But
right, okay, go on, what are you going to say?
yeah, but she was the inspiration. She was the inspiration to not just me, but millions of others. Millions of others. She was an inspiration,
Wow.
and it'll be very hard to replicate that. A lot of people say to me that you got to try and replicate what she did and everything, but there can only be one of her like that, of her kind. To reach that status, it's one hell of a status to reach.
Wow.
Same with
Wow.
as well. He was also very caring and very loving to other people around him. What a great man he was as well.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Wow.
Again, we're
So
like,
alhamdulillah means all praise belongs to God. I keep saying that.
yeah,
Should be keeping it in English. All right. So, okay. So second half, as usual, do ask your questions. But if you don't have questions, I got loads lined up. So here we go. Is there a spiritual reason for loneliness? I'm trying to think what made me ask this question in the first place. Um, so I had this idea, I suppose, again from the same movie, where, yes, now I remember, it's from the same movie near the end, and the lady, the one who the main character falls in love with, she basically complains that she can't really connect with anybody. And then I thought about loneliness and what's the cause of loneliness and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, is there a spiritual reason for loneliness? And loneliness, of course, is a massive problem in the West. um, Even in, maybe, let's say, religious communities where we've taken up some sort of materialistic habits, let's say. But anyway, so let me do my usual quote. And good and evil are not alike. Repel evil with which that is best, and lo, he between whom thyself and was enmity will become as they were a warm friend. Again, I forgot to do the translation from ancient Shakespearean English to modern English. It goes something like, good and bad are not the same thing, and fix the evil or get rid of the evil and badness by uh, teaching wisdom, basically, that thing that is best, right? Okay. And you will find that soon, very quickly, that the hatred and bad feelings between people you will turn people into people who are like warm friends. So that's kind of a modern translation. Okay. But then my comment, or why is that an answer to the question, is there a spiritual reason for loneliness, okay, based on this quote, is loneliness comes from the evil of selfish societies. The only way to combat this darkness is the truth that God exists, and God expects us to be kind to all of his creation, including us human beings. So that's kind of the beginning of an answer. Let me just go into it a little bit. I'll just get them say one bit, because again, I've got a massively long answer. So I'm just going to say one bit, then you say what you think, right?
oh,
Loneliness. Go on, go on.
short and sweet. That's how you're gonna do it, aren't you? Short and simple.
That was my super short and sweet. The thing I just said, loneliness comes from the evil of selfish societies, basically, right? But then I'm going to do a medium short and sweet. Here goes. Loneliness is mysterious and can suck happiness into a dark and invisible emptiness in your soul. It's like a black hole for emptiness. I mean, for happiness, right? So if you're lonely, it just sucks out all the happiness in your life, right? Societies where people are controlled by the evil idea that life is about how important they can make themselves compared to others, end up being in constant competition with each other. So if you think your life is about becoming important, and becoming important to who? Compared to what? Compared to other people. So if you think like that, you're basically in competition with other people all the time. And if you're in competition with other people all the time, guess what? You're going to be like enemies with each other. You're not really going to be friends. Yeah. So that you're going to just make distance between you and everybody else. Okay. And this is what atheism does. Atheism leads to loneliness for two reasons. One is this thing called nihilism, the idea that there's no point to everything. Like if there's no God, and everything is just going to disappear and all your good work is just going to go and turn into atoms, and when you die and all this kind of stuff, so what's the point of making friends and being nice to people? That's one problem with atheism, right? Okay, so this kills any idea of, I don't know, creating a community or something like that, right? The other is that atheistic societies, there is no shared principle that tells us how to treat each other. Okay, so like in Islam, right, for example, and also in Judaism. So like in Islam, we say assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. That's the hello way, right? And it's not just that, we're supposed to not just say it to people we know, like everybody who's a Muslim, like you're supposed to like just say that, right? And at least you kind of make eye contact and say hello, and you smile hopefully when you say it, right? Okay, and that's actually the same in Judaism, by the way, just in case people don't know. They say, instead of saying assalamu alaikum, they say ashalom aleichem,
Yeah.
right? It sounds the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I've seen, I've been to a church, and even in a movie I've watched, right, when they went to a church, they say peace be upon you, which is the meaning of that, right? I mean, peace be upon you, right? So all these different religions actually have these beautiful ways of staying connected with each other, right? Have you ever watched the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
One of the main things about that movie, okay, was how they say hello to each other. So I see you. I don't know if you remember that. There's a beautiful song at the end of the movie called I See You, right? And it's basically they really try to connect to each other when they say hello. They don't just say, how you do? Like people say, how you doing? And even if you're miserable, you say, I'm fine. You know that thing, right?
Yeah, I
Right?
know. But
That
deep,
is
when you say not bad, but deep down you feel rotten.
exactly. That is not really connecting, right? So in the movie, they kind of made a point about this, right? The movie is kind of against our modern Western way of life, which is destroying the earth and not feeling connected to each other and just going for material things and not realizing the spirit between people. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the connection between people. And that's what a lot of that movie is about, right? So, and religion has a solution to it. It says, even if you split, like in Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, like, even if like you're walking together and then you're separated by a tree and you come back, say salam or peace be upon you again, because people, maybe that sounds silly, but people are really affected by really small things. Like imagine I walk past you and I don't smile or I don't say hello. You're actually affected by that. You actually feel like you're not important. You feel like a stranger. But religion does the exact opposite. It treats everybody as they're all brothers and sisters. And it's not just brothers and sisters on this planet. It's like we're all children of God, right? Right? We're
Right. Yeah.
children of God, right? Basically, God's creation, right? Okay. So when we die, we'll come back to life and we'll be brothers and sisters again. So it's not like this thing that just happens like atheists believe, right? So atheism creates loneliness, is basically what I'm trying to say. But anyway, I've been doing a lot of talking. I don't know. Do you feel like saying something? Any opinions you want to share?
Well, atheism, well, to do with different religions and atheism, uh, I think it's materialism. That's what's killing society as a whole. And we become too addicted to certain things that, like for example, that's why where humanity is losing itself. You know, humanity is losing itself. Why we don't say hello to one another? is a reason because, and if, as you said, and if you're going to give an answer and say, well, I'm not feeling too bad, but deep down you're feeling terrible, because but then again, what's the point of saying how you feel? Because at the end of the day, in Western society, nobody really cares how you feel, you know.
Hmm.
So
That's true because we're so bad at communication. We're
mm,
not good at saying I love you and stuff like that. Like in Arab countries, they say I love you all the time, Habibi all the time. Have you ever heard people say Habibi? Do you know what that means?
no,
My
I've not.
love, basically. It's just like that's how people talk to each other, right? Okay. But and the reason why people don't do that anymore is because they're so just used to talking to phones or watching YouTube videos, but not really communicating anymore.
That's right.
And that's part of materialism.
It's part of materialism, and materialism is has taken over the West, and it's not just the kids; it's the grown-ups as well.
100%. And even so-called religious people have been like affected by it because if you live in a materialistic society for long enough, you can, without you knowing it, you can get affected by it a lot.
Mm,
So, yeah. Anyway, next one. Would we be happier and have less corruption if we replaced governments with local ones? Okay, so this big idea, people are really starting to hate governments, right? And there lots of people on the on the internet they're saying maybe if we lived in small communities that would make things better.
mm,
And here's a really short quote to kind of give the answer. Your leaders will be as you deserve. I put it there. It's a quote from Prophet Muhammad, right? If you have bad leaders, you deserve bad leaders because you're bad people, like corrupt people. Wait, what kind of leaders are you going to get from a corrupt society? Corrupt leaders, right?
exactly.
But you can't imagine if you have beautiful people who love each other and they're really nice to each other and everybody's good, where would the bad leaders come from,
That's,
right?
yeah, where would the bad leaders come from? I know.
Yeah, so we deserve our bad leaders. So just having a smaller groups, that's not going to fix things because there's going to be smaller groups of bad people.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta fix ourselves. So anyway, my short answer, let me read this thing that I've got there. Our leaders corruption is a reflection of our own. I basically said this, isn't it? Oh, communes. So there's this thing, people live in communes sometimes, right? There's little groups, you know. Communes have their own corruption, right? So I won't go into, I'll probably go into it later maybe, but there's a commune, for example, somewhere in Wales where they live in a teepee, kind of these hut, and there's a lot of bullying that goes on there. For
Mm,
example, I mean, why should you expect somebody to be better just because they're in a smaller group? In fact, because they're in a smaller group, those individuals have bigger power. And what kind of power are they going to use? They're going to use their physical strength and stuff like that, right?
mm,
So if you're like one tough person in a massive community like England, you can't use your physical strength to control everybody in England, can you? Yeah. But if you're only 20 people, maybe you could, right? So there's corruption in small groups as well. Okay. What ends corruption and increases friendliness is belief in God. Because when we realize that we are all God's children and so treat each other as brothers and sisters, that's a rubbish sentence. But anyway, the point is, I write this stuff really quickly, but it always makes sense, right? So the point is that if we believe we're God's children, then we realize we have to treat each other as brothers and sisters. And when we realize we're brothers and sisters, that just makes people feel close.
it does.
It
Absolutely.
does.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you know, we have to. At the end of the day, we are God's children, and He created us from a single source, and we are His children. So that's
Yeah.
how it
That's
is,
a
and we
Yeah,
are.
I like that little thing you just said. He created from a single soul, which is again a quote from the Holy Quran. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So we come from one thing. We were all one thing originally. That's beautiful.
I know.
Yeah.
Um,
And I remember like even like like we can be if I said you're my brother, like you wouldn't be surprised. You'd be like, yeah, of course I am. Muslim brother, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
but outside kind of this kind of religious way of looking at it, people find it. Imagine you said that to your average person on the street.
it'll be
They would
very. horrified.
They'll be shocked. They'll be like, long lost brother? Like, do we have the same mother or something? Like, do you know what I mean? Or they'll just find that like some sort of hippie thing. But in religious communities, there's a sense of course we are. Of course we're connected. Do you know what I mean? And that's
Mm,
one of the things what I loved about when I was living in the Middle East. Um, People would just say, "Yeah, I'm your brother. I can help you with anything." Do you know what I mean? And
mm.
it's like, ask me anything. I'm your sister or something like that. Even at work, because they all have the same mentality. Do you know what I mean?
But then
And
why in society, if we said in Western society, they will just tell us to back off or get lost. That's how rude Western society is. If you tell them, you are my brother, we are brothers, and you will not get a good response. It's a
yeah,
in
that's interesting. I remember saying that when I went to. So sometimes I have to go like to a primary school and explain something about Islam, right? And I say in Islam we're all brothers and sisters, not even just the Muslims, everybody. We're all brothers and sisters, right? And wouldn't that be nice? And so most of the kids got it. And these are like, I don't know, 8 year olds or 7 year olds, yeah. But one of the kids said, "Oh, that's a bit scary. Like everybody, like even strangers, I can't be. I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." And fair enough. Like kids shouldn't just talk to all the strangers, especially when people are not so close together, right? Okay, but yeah. So you're definitely right that people are sort of scared from this idea of everybody being connected and everything, and maybe they don't trust each other because for so long they haven't trusted each other, right?
a
Maybe.
massive word. Big trust has really literally like it's gone out the window. It's gone out the window. People are harming each other because they are different in society. You have people discriminating against one another because of different religions, because of a different color of race. And people say, oh, them lot there, well, they're not, they're different because they don't fit in as being as one of us because our religion culture is different to them. But the reality is that that is not the case. Two eyes.
100%. I love that we just like we got Black Lives Matters, like not Black Lives Matters, everybody's lives matters, right?
Yeah,
Okay, and 100%, we seem to find hundreds of ways to divide society, one side against another society.
yeah.
And so, if we're just brothers and sisters, like, oh, I'm slightly darker than you, big deal, we're brothers and sisters. Do you know what I mean?
Another thing is you don't get, if you were to get a pack of dogs or a pack of cats, you get a white cat, you get a black cat, and you get a brown cat.
Yeah.
You get a white dog and you get a brown dog. Would there be so much discrimination amongst these animals? I think they would get along a lot better than us humans.
Wow, wow, that is so true. It is true that from one parent, because we used to have a lot of cats and dogs and whatever, especially cats in Middle East as
Yeah,
pets, and they used to come out all different colors. One would be orange, one would be like, and how is that even happening? I don't understand it, but yeah.
all these
Um,
cats and these dogs, they're all brothers and sisters, and they get along better.
wow, that is something to think about.
I
Wow.
think,
And the things you said about trust. That is so important. You know what people say nowadays? How can we trust anybody? And so they end up, funny enough, going to their pets. There's like, oh, we can't trust human beings because we always get hurt. Like, how can we trust people with our feelings and stuff like that? People say that, isn't it? Have you heard that?
yeah, yeah, something like yeah. I know.
Yeah. And they start calling everybody toxic as well. Like that's the opposite of trust. Everybody's toxic. Have you
Mm,
heard of that? People say, I don't know how popular that is, but I
toxic.
mean, say not popular, but I mean like a word that you hear around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
because of the wrong idea about love. Because people think that when you give love, you have to get it love back. And then they say, oh, I can't trust the person to give me love back. Okay. But that's not love then. Like when you show kindness, it's not like if I'm going to be kind to you. Can you give me a £5 note for being kind to you? That's not kindness. That's
No,
like, that's like materialism, right? Okay. So kindness is I give you love and you don't know if anybody's going to be nice back to you.
no, you don't know.
Yeah. So
You,
that's what. So then there's no question of trust. It's like I'm being kind to you because I'm trying to make the world a bit better. Like if I'm kind to you, maybe you'll learn from my example. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Maybe you won't.
Well,
Maybe you'll learn from my experience in 10 years' time after I'm kind to you for 10 years. And then you'll finally figure it out. And it's actually how the world changes because people don't learn straight away. If I'm kind like to a mean person 100 times, they won't get it, but they might get it after 1,000 times. That's how you need patience.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's yeah, kindness teaches good manners, good mannerism, and kindness also teaches you to trust other people as well.
That's really true. Yeah, yeah. Like trusting and hope that they'll become better people or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another one. Yay, meaning alive. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is, I don't know. This is going to be funny. I don't know. But here we go. All right. So is 42 the meaning of life? What do you think? Is 42 the meaning of life, Wahid?
Well, you're asking me. I'm 42.
All right. Okay. So a bit of background. If you haven't watched the rest of the live stream, my tongue is getting a bit funny because I haven't eaten the whole day and a bit thirsty, right? Anyway, so um, it's based on this movie, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Why am I talking about it especially? Because Elon Musk really likes it. He said it recently. He actually talked about 42 meaning being the meaning of life. Okay. He's kind of joking, but it's a very important topic. Okay. Okay. And as usual, I'm just going to try to dive into it. Um, Here goes, little quote. And I, God, did not create the universe and the earth and all that is between them just for fun. Okay, it's a quote from the Holy Quran. Okay, what's that got to do with anything? Okay, so one look at the smooth running machinery that not only made us, but also is keeping us alive. Okay, that is Earth. Earth is like a great big machine, okay, as well as the universe and everything else, right? Okay, all these things somehow created us and keep us alive. Okay, you should that reality should make you realize that there is a God and that God was not messing around when God made us. Okay, so maybe that's a bit hard for people to really appreciate because nature runs so smoothly that we take it for granted. Now, let me tell you the opposite of nature, like a rubbish version of nature. Imagine instead of beautiful, fluffy clouds floating around in the sky, imagine if there were nasty big tins that collected water. Okay, and they were connected on ropes, and there were massive big wheels that pulled the ropes from one place to another, and then that there was another one for air that somehow recycled the air, and there's some nasty system, right? And we could see it. We could physically see it. We couldn't ignore the clouds because the clouds are beautiful. We can kind of ignore them, right? They float nice and high, and you know. But if it was an ugly tin, lots of them, millions of them, we would notice it, right? And they're all connected by ropes and stuff, right? And then imagine there was something for air and something for everything else, and the ugly solar panels instead of lovely leaves, because leaves are like solar panels. They connect the light and they turn it into energy, right? And then every day you'd have a knock on your door and there'd be a robot and it says, "This is the food made by the system, the Earth system," right?
Yeah.
Is yeah. Imagine then one thing you would realize from such an ugly, horrible system is that somebody made it. Like you can't imagine this massive system full of ropes and tins and whatever, and a robot coming to your door. You would definitely say, "Who made you? Where did you come from?" Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But because nature is so beautiful, so perfect, so streamlined, you don't even know, you don't hear it going, and you don't need to put some oil to keep it working, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Because it works so perfectly, because it's so great, we ignore it and we take it for granted, which is really weird. So the better the system, the more we ignore it. And somehow this amazing system called nature, we don't think there's a God behind it. But if there was a rubbish system, we would go, "Oh, yeah, there's something behind it, making it." right? So that's a really weird thing. Okay, and it's the opposite of what it should be. If it's better, we should think it's a better creator. Is a there's a God behind it, right? But anyway, that's just kind of just to help people visualize it, because people take things for granted. Okay, so anyway, and there's a second thing, okay, about the meaning of life. So first of all, we kind of know there's a God, but that's kind of even just the beginning of what I'm going to say, right? Okay, there's a funny thing called a conscience. Now, you might not think it's conscience. You might think a conscience is a religious thing, but actually, psychologists have been talking about the conscience as an amazing and mysterious thing for a very long time, because psychologists will tell you, actual psychologists, not religious people, that say conscience is not in your control. Okay, if you do a bad thing, it will tell you off. If you're a bank robber and you really like the money that you robbed, it will tell you off. You'd be like, hang on, you annoying conscience. I don't want you to tell me off. I just robbed loads of money. I want to be happy with it, but it won't let you. So psychologists have long known about this, but loads of people don't know that psychologists know about this, and it's not just religious people. But anyway, so I'm going to try to squeeze in a bit of what I wanted to really say, continuing on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy theme. The movie has a point. Okay, it says the meaning, the question, what is the meaning of life, doesn't make sense. Like, how can anything have meaning? How can life have meaning? It's a bit of a weird question. Okay, so I agree with the movie in that sense, right? Okay, so the correct question, okay, because in the movie it kind of says, well, the computer who's supposed to figure out the meaning of life says your question doesn't quite make sense. And so what you need to find out, the computer says to the human beings, you need to find out what the question of life is. Okay, so here's the question of life. I think the better question of life is, what is the purpose of life? Because that's very exact. Like, what is the function? Like, if I say, what's the purpose of this TV remote? Yeah, then you can tell me. Like, if I said, what's the meaning of this TV remote? It's a bit weird. Okay, but actually, I don't totally disagree with the question of what's the meaning of life, because when you say what's the meaning of life, it's kind of saying, like, not what's this job, like why are we here physically, but like, why is it a good job? Why does it make us feel good about our lives? But that's kind of a bit deeper, and I'll go into that later, right? But anyway, so, but before I even answer what is the meaning of life, we need to go back to this thing. Okay, now when we this idea that in the movie they make fun of it, the reason why they say the meaning of life is 42 is because they're basically trying to say there is no meaning of life. And what I'm going to try to say, or what I kind of said earlier on when I described the earth as one big machine, when you realize the earth is one big machine and it works so amazingly to provide us food and everything we need, okay, is we must realize there must be a God. And not only must we realize there must be a God, there's another thing we must realize, that if, imagine there's a massive machine and it's all designed to provide you food, so that there's less in this funny world, there's a robot and he comes to your house every day and he provides this luxury food to you. You must realize that you must be an important part of that machine, not part of the machine, but you must be very important. Let's say for a whole machine, earth-like machine, to create food for you. Does that make any sense?
Mm, kind of.
Right?
Well,
Kind.
kind of, yeah. Sort of. It kind of does make a little bit of sense, but then sometimes you can become dependent on it. Sometimes, in a sense, or
Yeah, I know what you mean. You maybe get comfortable, but the point of what I was trying to say is that people, what has that got to do with the meaning of life? Okay, is that people think that their lives are meaningless, but if they realize that God or whatever creator has done so much work to keep you alive, why would that God do all that work if your life was completely pointless? Why would he make this massive earth, which has all these systems to keep you alive? Right? It's a hint that your life is important. why your hair is important. Okay, if you could physically see a massive machine, imagine millions of machines, and they're all just trying to make food for you, and they come to your door and they've got spoons and they say, here's food, come and open your mouth, eat. Right? Wouldn't you feel important?
You would feel
Kind of.
kind of, yes, you would.
Right?
But
But
you,
now, if we rewind a little bit, and these machines are invisible, but they still provide you with food all the time, your KFC that you love so much, right? Okay. Like maybe you don't feel so important just because it's invisible, but that KFC didn't grow, that chicken didn't happen by itself. Do you know
no,
what I mean? So
no,
that's why we take it for granted, and that's why we feel less important. And anyway, now I run out of time, but that's cool. At least I explained a bit of it.
yeah.
And thank you so much for listening to that. And do check out the longer answer and the in the description. You know, I'm talking about the description, right? The YouTube description, loads of links there and stuff like that. All the writing and all the stuff. Anyway,
Hey, loads of links, guys.
yeah, loads of links. Check it out, guys. Anyway,
Smash that button as well.
yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the enthusiasm and reminding people to smash that like button.
Don't be scared and don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be.
We the old DJs and we look after you guys.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're the spiritual DJs. We like dish out some cool spiritual wisdom. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I just want to thank you again, Wahid. And I want to thank all the viewers that keep watching this show, even if they don't chat in the live chat. That's cool. Maybe it's hard to ask questions because it's all deep stuff, right? But do feel free to ask questions in the non-live chat, in the comments on the bottom. Do check it out the show next week. Do go to the website next week. I don't know, whatever, bigquestionsanswer.com. Blah blah blah. Press that like button or smash that like button. Don't go crazy. Don't smash your keyboard up though.
It's like smash like that. Can you see?
All right. Okay. Peace be upon you. Oh, Tariq says something.
What's he?
I don't know what he says. That's my brother Tariq. He says YT and it's got semicolon YT. I don't know what that means. Maybe it means some sort of smiley or something. I'll have to ask him. That's my little brother Tariq. Okay. So I appreciate.
How you doing, Darek Safir?
Oh, okay. Anyway, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. You know what? Stay on the. I'll hang up on the live stream. We'll just chat away for a little bit if you like. Yeah.
Stay on here. Shall I stay on here?
Yeah, please, Wahid. You're